Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. Yeah, fresh from the 10k yesterday. Well, not that fresh actually. It felt pretty rough this morning. Sorry, owning again. I don't know. I feel like I just need to get this period over and done with, where I'm feeling rough all the time and push through. You know what I mean? Like be a proper man. None of this man flu nonsense, right? You know us men, we're hard, yeah. We'll push through it. So I'm going to push through this. Talking of pushing through, the next day after a race, and whether it's a 5k, 10k, half marathon even, doesn't really matter. Your legs are going to feel a little bit stiff, and it's tempting not to do anything on those days, and in my opinion that's not a good idea. You should do something. I like to do a short kind of gentle run. That's what I'm going to do today. I think it's good to get your legs moving again, but nothing too much so you stretch your muscles too much. It's good to go to the gym and do some stretching, floor work, core work as well, as long as you don't mess around too much, nothing too heavy on your hamstrings, okay? So this morning I'm going to be wearing the New Balance Balos, which is one of my slow run shoes, or you can take it up tempo a little bit. I love this shoe. It's really nice and bouncy. Not the most stable, but I think at the speed I'm going at, I'll be fine. I haven't worn it for a while actually as well, and this is one of these shoes that I'll definitely be taking many 100 miles, because it's that enjoyable to run in. Only downside with this shoe is it's got a low volume upper, and I'm feeling it a little bit in my toe. I always get sensitive toes, so when I do a race, if my toes get a little bit cramped, I get a bit of sensitive toes, and this upper, I can feel it, my toes brushing against the material, you know, the mesh material a little bit. So that's the only downside I think with wearing a shoe like this on one of these kind of runs. Apart from that, brilliant shoe. You know, I was so tempted to put the Nova Blast 5 on, but I thought you'd all be sick to death of that by now, so I thought I'd wear a different shoe. Anyway, I'll see you later. And just a quick show of the shoes, prove them that I've got them on. See you later. Bye bye. So, if you are fortunate enough to see this on sale somewhere, the Balos, or you know, you can find a good pair on eBay or Vinted at a decent price. I don't know whether Vinted, they have Vinted in other countries actually, whether it's a UK specific thing, but think of Vinted as a bit like eBay, but you don't bid, you just buy. But they're generally used stuff, although you do get new stuff on there. You just got to be careful it's not fake. You can get it authenticated, but it costs you 10 quid. So whether you can be bothered to spend that kind of money, it's probably worth it if you're trying to get an Alpha Fly 3 off there or something. And anyway, yeah, it's a site that I've used in the past. You just got to ask the person who's selling to weigh the item for you. You can normally tell whether something's fake or not by the weight, generally. So if it's in the ballpark of what it should be for your size, then it's probably not fake. They can never quite get the foam light enough in the fakes. Anyway, I digress. We're talking about Balos, not fake shoes. We'll do another episode on how to spot fake, shall we? Because I've had a few of those. But anyway, let me know in the comments that's the kind of thing you'd like to watch. There's a few little tricks I think, but by and large, measuring the weight of the shoe is the main thing. But back to the Balos. So really nice comfy ride, like I said. If you can find it for like £150, and I think that's about the right price for this, maybe 160 max. You can find it for around that price, then I think it's not a bad deal. It's just up against some heavy hitters now with the Nova Blast 5, the More V5, to be something in the word 5. the letter 5 in word. Anyway, I suppose it is a word if you write it. But the point being, at £200, it's way overpriced for what it is. And you get equally nice rides in the New Balance and the Nova Blast. The only difference I feel is this shoe has definitely got a better grip than the Nova Blast. It's lighter than, definitely light. It's similar sort of weight to the Nova Blast actually, definitely lighter than more V5, that's for sure. It's feels like it's got a similar sort of cushion and stack to the Nova Blast. Obviously less stacked than the more V5, that's a really high cushion shoe. You can go a lot quicker, I feel, in both the Nova Blast and the Balos than you can in the more V5. I'm not saying the more V5 is a slow shoe, but it is quite a tank on your feet. It's a beast. So you just got to bear that in mind when you're running in it. Whereas the other two are a bit more nimble. I would say in terms of speed, if you're looking at speed, I would say probably I'd give the Balos the edge. I know not a lot of people might be thinking, well, Nova Blast, but I don't know, I just feel this foam, this Fresh Foam X is just a great foam and it bounces you along, and I think once I get going in this I could really hit some pace. I mean, it is a kind of favourite slow run shoe of mine, but I could easily use this for a kind of tempo session. I mean, I don't, because I've got the Mac X2, the Hoka, which is a better shoe for that, and I've got a few others that are better shoes for that kind of session, but like the Super Blast, for instance. But it is pretty good shoe all round and quite versatile, so that's another consideration. You're paying £200, but you could potentially race in this shoe. It can do your slow runs, your long runs. You know, I think it would be fine for your long runs up to sort of, I don't know, let's say 15 miles, and then you might get a bit of bottoming in the foam. You might wish you had a plate in there to stabilise and keep it a little bit firmer. So you could do your long runs, you could do your tempo sessions in this, and like I said, you could potentially race in this. I wouldn't necessarily think it's the quickest, but you know, if I had to, I wouldn't worry about doing a 5k in this shoe. Wouldn't worry me at all, actually. 10k, half marathon would be fine. Marathon I'd be slightly worried about whether it'd bottom out. I mean, it's cushioned, but not that cushioned compared to some of the super shoes. And obviously the lack of a plate means less stability often, and also less protection in many ways, because the plate takes some of that shock absorption. But you don't have to run in plated shoes to go long distance. A lot of people don't. Super Blast is a good example of a shoe that many people would use for their long runs, and it works fine, but it has got a massive stack, massive load of cushioning, so there's a reason it works fine. And the foam is firm. It's a stiff foam, so you don't need a plate. This foam is a bit more mushy. Maybe mushy is a bit harsh, but you know, you do sink into this foam a little bit, and if you can imagine doing that over 20 miles, it is going to take its toll on your energy. Like I think I mentioned before, I ran my first marathon in the Nike Invincible, right? And the first version, and what a great shoe that was, by the way. I'd just come out of hospital. Well, say just come out of hospital. I'd a year, 18 months before. Sorry, I'm trying to be dramatic there. I'd come out of hospital and with my body in bits, but with a vague plan, well, determined plan, let's say, to run a marathon and stick fingers up to the doctors who said I wouldn't walk properly again. And so I did some research, and it seemed to me the best cushion shoe that would protect my leg, and it was my leg that I was most worried about, would be the Nike Invincible. Although a bit of a beast of a shoe and weight, I wasn't caring about that. Just wanted to get to the end of my first marathon, and that had no plate. So I'm getting to my point now, sorry. Had no plate. And that, although by the end of the marathon it did bottom out a little bit, it protected my legs so well. With that massive, soft, spongy foam. And it was a good shoe. And this foam reminds me of that foam a little bit. That Zoom X, this Fresh Foam X. You know, it's very spongy. Like, there's just less of it in the shoe. And there's a better, more pronounced rocker in this shoe as well, which is keeping me moving along. So, you know, this shoe I could definitely go quicker in than I could in that Nike Invincible. But I guess my point is, you don't always have to wear plated shoes. There's many good shoes that aren't plated that you can wear. Nova Blast 5. I saw someone yesterday, actually, because it was an ASICS event, running the 10k in a Nova Blast 5, and he was doing pretty well. I mean, I only overtook him towards the end of the run. So he must have been on for sort of 38 minutes for his 10k in the Nova Blast. So that just shows you that shoe can move. It's an all-rounder. I mean, literally, if you're going to pick shoes to do everything, you've literally got this one, the Balos. You've got the Nova Blast 5. You've got a few others, Super Blast 2 obviously, possibly Mac X, although they wouldn't be my first pick for a slow run. Mac X2, sorry, I meant. Wouldn't be my first pick for a slow run, but they can do pretty much everything else, and I'd much prefer to race in that than any of the shoes I've mentioned. That I reckon I could get really some decent times in the Mac X2. It's that good a shoe. There is another shoe that, unbelievably, again I think it would fit into the versatile shoe that can do everything, and that, unbelievably, is this yellow X1, which is the premium race day shoe for Hoka. But it is it's got a nice soft cushioned ride that throws you forward, but you can go slow in the shoe. You know, you can. It's got a lovely feel to it, that shoe, and with the wing plates, for some reason I don't feel like that shoe feels harsh at all, like a lot of carbon shoes. So I feel like that's another option if you're willing to pay £250, but that will literally do everything for you, and it's fairly durable. I can see that shoe going on for 500 miles for me. Must be already about 250, 300. I'd have to check. So the yellow X1 is another shoe that can do pretty much everything. So there are a few of these out on the market. I wouldn't say, probably would not say the More V5, just because I would definitely not race in that shoe. It's just too heavy, and I know I said yesterday weight doesn't matter so much, but that one, if you're really looking for good times, I think it is slightly too heavy, and I wouldn't recommend buying that shoe to do everything. It can do pretty much everything apart from the racing aspect, which I would buy something that's more specific to that pursuit. maybe if you want to stick with New Balance, you could get the Balos in tandem with that for your quicker runs, or you could go and get the race shoe, which is a super comp fuel cell, more V4 Elite, sorry, V4, which is quite an underrated shoe actually. A lot of people stuck their noses up to that because all these shoe reviewers who aren't elite runners were saying it's not a very quick shoe. Well, newsflash, half of you are not that quick runners like me. We're just normal. And so do you actually need the Alpha Phi 3 or the Elite, Endorphin Elite for your marathons? Potentially not. I've often wondered that myself. This is why I've been running my two out of the last 3 marathons in the Cielo, which is also a shoe that everyone says is not that quick compared to, the Alpha Phi 3 and the Endorphin Elite and the Edge and Sky Paris. But you know what? I've got my marathon PB in that shoe, and it did a fine job. Beat the Endorphin Elite 1 in terms of time and comfort. So I think generally you have to be a little bit careful when you listen to reviewers. They're almost judging the shoe as if they were elite runners, and some of them are bloody good runners. Nick, I say, from Run Test, is a bloody good runner, and so if you're at that standard, he's running marathons sub 2:30, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If you're at that standard, then yes, listen to some of the stuff he's saying, because it will make a difference. But if you're like me, up around the 3 hour mark or higher, then you've got to be careful with what you listen to in terms of what they're telling you about which shoe to use for your races and marathons. Because actually, rather than picking the lighter shoe or a shoe that is super fast, springy, you might want something a bit more stable. And there are 1 or 2 shoes out there on the market that I think do it all actually, in that respect. And the Diodora Gara Carbon is one of those. I think Max, who listens to this channel, a big fan of that, and I agree with him. Probably the most stable super shoe of the lot, and it's quick. So if you want something like the Sky Paris, but you want a stable, bigger platform to land on that's going to look after you for the entire half marathon or marathon, that's a great shoe. More stable than the Cielo, right? It's a more traditional ride. Another shoe that could do it all, but the durability of that shoe is questionable. So that one I wouldn't advise doing your slow runs or even your tempo sessions. You'd probably want to save that for your intervals and races. But anyway, totally digressed again, as I do, sorry. So Balos, bit of summary for you. Brilliant shoe. If you've got the money, or you can find it discounted, around the £150 mark, definitely worth a purchase. Only a couple of downsides as far as I'm concerned. It's got a low volume in the toe box. Might not be an issue for you if you haven't got as fat toes as I have. So you've got narrowish feet with normal sized toes, you'll be fine. And then the other issue obviously is the price. But it's got a far better grip than the Nova Blast 5. I mean, this is a wet surface and it's handling it so much better. And it's got soft rubber, and Asics could take a leaf out of this book, right? Because you don't need to have hard rubber, grippy rubber, for it to be grippy. This shoe's very grippy, and it's got soft rubber, just like the Nova Blast. just far better. So they're the only downsides. Everything else about this shoe is pretty cool. Looks pretty cool as well, just like the Nova Blast 5. So it'd be interesting for me to do a head-to-head of this shoe versus the Nova Blast 5, which is something I'll look to do soon. I'll maybe include a few others, and we can also do a roundup of the year like everyone seems to be doing at the moment. Why not join in? I've got enough shoes to consider best shoes in each category now. And the good thing, when you listen to my reviews, you know I've bought them all. Just like Ben Parks, he's another one, buys them all. There's not many of us, but you know it's completely unbiased. I say that though, you know, I think you can trust reviewers like the Run Testers, who are, like I said, are journalists, and they've got integrity. You know, that's their careers on the line if they're found to be doing anything dubious in that respect. So those guys you can trust, and I often, you know, listen to their channel because I think it's good, and they come across as nice guys, to be honest, and that's the main thing. But yeah, you can trust what we're saying, and I think by and large most reviewers you can trust, right? They're just nice guys who want to help you get the right shoes. And let's be honest, they start promoting Duff shoes because they're in the pocket of brands. People will soon wise to it and they'll stop watching them. So yeah, that's kind of a prophecy they don't want, that'll bring them down. And I feel like you know, with that in the back of their minds, nobody's going to do that kind of thing. Well, at least I hope not. I'm sure it goes on, but the bigger guys, I think, have too much to lose to do something stupid like that. That's all I want to say. I'm talking shit again, sorry Paul. Been a nice gentle run for me, and it's kind of run I like actually after doing a race. I'll see you later, bye bye. So I'm just taking this shoe up a hill now, the Balos, to give you an idea of what it's like going up a hill. And it feels pretty good, to be honest. Probably not. I mean, in the ideal world, I probably want something a bit firmer going up this hill. You sink a little bit into the foam, so it can feel a little bit laboured. And I think the same thing happens a bit with the Nova Blast 5. But it's light enough to kind of get away with it. Feels okay to me. Also, my legs are feeling pretty tired from yesterday, so I should give the shoe a bit of a break here, because it's not just the shoe, it's my legs. But yeah, all in all, really like this shoe, and highly recommend it if you can find it on discount somewhere. That's pretty much it from me today. Please add any comments about what we talked about. Gone through a whole spectrum of stuff, sorry. It's not just about the Balos or slow running today. Anything you agree with, disagree with, let me know. We'll have a nice chat in the comments. See you later, bye bye. Hi, it's Ed from Runnable, and in this very short review I want to talk a little bit about the New Balance Fresh Foam Balos. This is a shoe that I used this morning. My legs are a bit stiff after 10k that I did yesterday, and I was thinking about which shoe to pick other than the Nova Blast 5, which I've just been using all the time recently. And I thought it might get a bit boring to hear some more stuff about that shoe. So I thought back at some of the shoes I've used throughout the year, and this one springs to mind for a number of reasons. First and foremost, it's a really nice shoe to use for easy runs. It's got a nice foam compound that your foot slightly sinks in, but it's not too mushy, and it gives you that nice cushion and that nice little bounce. It's not the most stable shoe, but it's not unstable either, and it's got a nice grip, you know, so if your legs are feeling a bit tired and you're wary of your foot strike and that kind of thing, the grip actually grips really well, much better than the Nova Blast 5 actually. So I thought, right, let's try this shoe again. I've done, over 200 miles in this shoe. I can't remember exactly, I can look on Strava, but I've done a lot of miles in this shoe. And it's a really nice shoe to just amble along in, but it's a versatile shoe. You can pick up the pace in this shoe, and that's where I think its strength lies. That it's a shoe you can do for easy runs, but you could also do tempo sessions in this shoe. It's not a mega light shoe. It's but it is reasonably light. So it's around the 270 mark. So it's slightly heavier than the Nova Blast shoe. But as I said in my last video, weight isn't everything, and I think that's a perfectly acceptable weight for a daily trainer. It's got a 6mm drop, so it's 38.5 in the heel, 32.5 in the forefoot, so it's got a nice drop. You get nice cushion under the forefoot as well as the heel, which is something I like. You've got a nice rocker that rocks you forward. It's quite an aggressive rocker actually, but it feels nice to run in this shoe. It feels effortless to just keep bouncing along forward. So it's one of the few shoes that when I put on, I actually really look forward to it, along with the Nova Blast, the Cielo, and a few of the others. I really, when my legs are beat up, these are the kind of shoes that I gravitate to. The more V5 as well, the other New Balance shoe. So with all these good, and it's got a really nice upper, with all these kind of positives of the shoe, I still have a major problem with it, and this is why. I can't wholly recommend this shoe to everyone. And there's two major problems. Well, there's one major problem and one problem for me anyway. So let's deal with the problem first, right? The problem I have is it's got a very low volume. So my toes are a little bit sensitive this morning because of the race, and I could feel them brushing up on the mesh material here, and it's a kind of scratchy mesh. It's not terrible, but it's one of these scratchy materials that when your toes rub, they do rub properly on this. And I feel like New Balance should actually give people a little bit more room in the toe box volume. I mean, it's wide enough, it's just the volume is low, and I've got quite fat toes, unfortunately. For me, I really do notice that. So that's the problem. And I guess the real problem is the price. And that is the issue I have with this shoe, really. At £200, this shoe is really not worth it, right? If I compare it to my most recent favourite, the Nova Blast, at £135. I mean, £65 difference, that's ridiculous, really, to compare. I mean, these shoes are quite similar in many ways, right? This is a lighter shoe. It's actually probably it is a more comfortable shoe. The foam compares pretty well. I'd say the Fresh Foam X may be slightly bouncier, but this is soft as well, and they're both like really nice rides. They both look good. In fact, I would argue that the Nova Blast, I don't know if you agree, and put in the comments if you do or not, is slightly nicer looking. Like I said, I can't, hand on heart, advise you to buy this shoe at £200 when there's this one available that does exactly the same thing. This might even be slightly better and more stable for slower runs. This one might be slightly quicker, even though this is lighter. This kind of feels more nimble. I think maybe that is because of the low volume. It feels a bit kind of like, more like a race fit on this shoe than you get with the Nova Blast. But you don't really need this to have a race fit, to be honest. I mean, you could race in this, as I said if you listen to the run footage, I would happily race a 5, 10K, even a half marathon in this shoe. I might not do a marathon because I feel like the foam might bottom out and I might need the extra protection and stability that a plate gives you. But you know, I could also say the same of this. I probably would prefer to run with the Balos at 5-10K than this shoe. But when it comes to half marathon, I would maybe go with an Overblast. I mean, there was a guy running yesterday the 10K in this shoe. It was an A6 event, and he was pretty rapid, to be honest. I passed him near the end, but he must have been finishing in around 38 minutes. So you can move in this shoe. So all things considered, why would I pick this shoe over this shoe at that price difference? And the only possibilities are, A, I find this cheaper somewhere. If I find this at £150, I might consider it because I can go potentially quicker in this shoe. And in that respect, it might be slightly more versatile. But it'd still be a real question mark, even at that price difference. Why would I pay the extra £15 for this? And hand on heart, you know, if I had to tell you, the viewers what I would do, I would buy the Novablast, and I wouldn't even look back, at the Balos. See you later, alligator. I mean, I wouldn't see any reason to buy this. As much as I love this shoe, I can't recommend it when you've got shoes like the Novablast out there. Even at the same price, there's a question to be had, which is the better shoe. And that kind of says it all, really. So that's where I want to end today. There's lots of good shoes out there in the marketplace, and you can find shoes that are fairly well matched like these two, and we'll do a head-to-head at some point. The point is, when it comes down to it, if they're so closely matched, but one is £65 more than the other, it's a no-brainer, right? Absolute no-brainer. So it's the responsibility of the brand like New Balance to bring these prices down. And I think the problem we have in the UK, in America, this would be a lot more reasonably priced, right? It'll be a similar amount in dollars, like a $200 shoe as opposed to a £200 shoe. And so we do suffer sometimes from some of the brands who don't differentiate between the market and the currencies. And so for us, it's an expensive shoe. For Americans, it's less so. But even with that, I still can't recommend the Balos over the Novablast unless you find it even cheaper than this somewhere. And even then, you've still got a question to ask, because this is a really good shoe. So that's all I want to say today. Credible shoe. If you can get this at discount somewhere, by all means buy it. But when you've got the Novablast 5 on the marketplace, which I believe is as good a shoe as this, potentially better, what are you going to do? Yeah. What am I going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to do this, aren't you? See you later.